We are here once again on Comics Are Dope, the podcast. It's always a special day. It's always a fun treat when we have guests in the building. And I love having returning guests. It's kind of my favorite type of guest. And I think at this point, Mr. Chris O'Hara is the most returned guest to the podcast. But he's always bringing people with him. So today we're talking about the campaign for Monstrel #1, which is live on Kickstarter right now. And here to talk about that with me is creator Ryan Hoover, and welcome back, Chris O'Hara. How are you guys tonight?
Doing great.
Yeah, so far so good.
Nice. Chris, Chris, this is the first time you've been here since I got my new computer, and I've been trying to figure out this whole live streaming get up. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for being here through all the technology changes. You didn't get scared away.
No. I mean, I was having my own problems on my end. And I think even right now, my camera, for some weird reasons, all laggy, but my computer's, I don't know. Hey, I'm with you.
It's all good.
But we're making it happen.
Right. Listen, the show must go on. So we are here to talk about the campaign for, we're here to talk about the campaign for Monstrel. And, you guys sent me this book so I could get a quick little sneak peek at it. And we spent some time in the pre-show debating the difference between an orc and an ogre. So that's fun, right? But before we dive further into that whole delineation, I'd love to know how this project came together, how you found Ryan, and just what we're looking at here.
That's a question for me, correct?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. No, you're good. Ryan, how'd you find yourself? No. So thankfully, as I've been, thank you once again, though, for having me back. I feel like it might be too soon because you just had me not that long ago, but I really appreciate it. Similar to Alex, who was the last guest that we kind of co-interviewed last time, was TikTok. I found Ryan through kind of like a connection of a connection. Nick on TikTok, highly recommend going and checking out Nick. I believe his profile is called Full Chub Book Club, so one of the better named TikToks out there. But he's a book talker as well as does comic books. And I ended up sending him, just because he seemed like a cool guy, I sent him a full box of the Bent Box library, if you will. So it's basically all of our books. It's kind of like a promo package, just giving him, kind of spreading the word. And I tell a lot of people up front, I'm like, hey, I do not expect reviews or unboxing or anything like that. I just want to get the books out. I want people to read them. I want people to enjoy them. If you give a review and say nice words, great. If you give a review and say bad words, that's fine too, because then now I know what to change. But all that said, I sent that out, and Ryan was also a viewer of Nick's, and he saw that and decided to kind of reach out to me. So technically Ryan took the first step, and as a writer creator of a series that he had been working on called Monstrel, he sent me a pitch deck basically, which was, sketches, some prepaid art for some pages, as well as basically kind of like a lore Bible, kind of like a long list of different all the issues he had planned and all the arcs he had planned. So I saw a lot of work was put into this, as well as basically the script for the first issue. So yeah, I'm not one to shy away from people looking for help. I've given help to people who I don't necessarily see, no offense to them, but potential enough to bring them on to Bentbox, just because we all know, as I've said before, I'm very quality driven. So as long as it's high quality, I'm going to be fairly interested. But Ryan's stuff was I saw a ton of potential. So it definitely went beyond let me help this guy out, and more of a hey, come on over to the dark side. So that's kind of what it ended up turning into. And then from there, yeah, it's just been making the book.
Nice. Now, Ryan, I probably should have asked this in the reverse order. I should have asked you first, how this project came together, how you got started. I mean, because it sounds like from Chris's perspective, well, it just, and also in the sequence of events in life, you had this book, you had started the project already before you decided to even bring it to Chris. So what was it about this book that had to come to life? And what made you decide to write a comic?
So it was a couple of things. I've always been a big reader of epic fantasy, science fiction. I'm reading books that are between 500 and 800 pages and epics of all kinds. And that's just really what I love. And I've gotten more into other things, mysteries, thrillers, but I always come back to the epic fantasy and the science fiction. And so I've always just kind of had ideas and stories that pop into my head. And I've just kind of scribbled notes, and I've got whole composition books probably somewhere with just all of these half-formed ideas that I've written down. And the idea for Monstral came about because I was just kind of reflecting on things that I've done in my life and things that have affected me greatly and kind of pointed my path in different directions. And one of the big constants in my life has been music. I was a band kid growing up. I did band in middle school. High school was in marching band. Spent a little time on the drum line. Did all that kind of stuff. Taught myself how to play guitar in high school, mostly to impress the girls, and that didn't really work out so well. But I did learn how to play guitar, and so I did all that. And I've told Chris this before. It just when I started learning music and when I started doing music, I found my people. And we were from all walks of life, all different backgrounds. And the thing that brought us together was a love of music. And I can tell you that there are some people that I got to be just really great friends with that I probably would not have interacted with unless we had this common thread. And it's had a huge impact on my life. And so when I started thinking about the concept for the story, I imagined a character who was brought up in an environment where everybody was going one direction, everybody was doing one thing, and he just didn't feel like he belonged in that environment and going in that direction. And so he basically strikes out on his own, and through accident or design, well, my design, he learns about music and a magic associated with that, and ends up pursuing a different path. And so has to go through not only finding his new path, but also giving up a lot of what he was raised in. Whether he likes it or not, it's familiar, and so he's got to strike out into the unfamiliar and unknown. And so in a lot of ways that reflects my own story, because I've used music in a lot of different avenues in my life as well to strike out into unknown areas. I've written songs. I have done different productions. I did musical theater for a while. I do praise and worship at my church and like all that kind of stuff. So music continues to be an influence in my life. And so I wanted to bring that to the story, and what better way than super epic fantasy, like all the stuff that I love.
All right. So you are into super epic fantasy. And anytime I have someone here who is a fan of something that, I have a blind spot for, I have to just ask for a quick, top 3, whether it's fantasy writers or stories that you've read that you feel like anyone who maybe is skeptical about the genre needs to get into.
So what are some recommendations? Well, I'll tell you one thing, that if you like a certain genre of book, they've probably got a fantasy book that has been written kind of cross genre. One of the ones that I suggest to everyone, let me see if I can grab it off the shelf here. I might be able to pull it off here. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So, sorry, sidebar. And it might be backwards. Yeah, here we go. It's called A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan, and that's her, I think her pen name. But it's basically a woman who wants to be like a naturalist, and in this fantasy world, dragons exist, and it's set in kind of like an alternate Victorian England kind of setting, and so it's a man's world. And there's 5 books, and it basically chronicles her life from the end. She's telling her life story, and she's an old woman, and she's like, oh, back in my day, here's how it was, and she basically chronicles like all the different types of dragons. And there's not any magic in it, but it's fascinating. It's just such a great story. And so I try to plug this, whenever I can.
Okay.
It's just this is fantastic. There are several others. I've got I've got a whole bunch of bookshelves. And sorry, I'm getting excited because this is not what we usually talk about here. But this anyway. So this is Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wong, and she did another book. Here we go. And I haven't read this one yet. It's called The Sword of Kayan. This was her first one, and this is like, I've heard this is emotionally devastating. Haven't read it yet, but I'm planning to. But when I tell you, this one shocked me. Like I remember you get to chapter 10 of this book, is about halfway through. My jaw hit the floor. I was like, you have got to be kidding me! Like the twist in it. And it's just so horrific, but just so perfect for this book. Anyway. So yeah, I would suggest. I'm going to calm down now. I would suggest those, and then we'll go sci-fi a little bit here too. Let me see if I can. You can see my desk my office is a mess. I've got everything everywhere. But then I've got Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio. This is an epic sci-fi. I want to say there's like 6 books in total, but this one is just like really popular right now. It starts off with this guy Hadrian Marlowe, and he basically destroyed a star and like destroyed a whole alien species, like wiped him off the face of the galaxy. And then he's in prison and he's having to defend his choice as to why he did that. And so everybody's portraying him as like the ultimate bad guy, and the whole series again starts at the end. And he tells his whole life story leading up to, his decision where he basically wiped out an entire alien species. And it's nuts. I've read that first book, but I haven't read any of the other ones. But anyway, I digress. But sorry, you didn't know what you were getting into there. But yeah, so epic fantasy science fiction, that's like my bread and butter. I could literally talk. That's not what we're here to talk about, but I could talk for another hour or two about all the stuff that I've read and just the stuff that I love. But those are just a few recommendations that I have.
Nice. So it's something that you're clearly passionate about, right? Like,
oh yes.
And when I talk to people ask me about, because I don't know, we're in this world where we monetize all our hobbies because that's a good thing to do somehow. And
yes.
For me, comics have been a hobby because I generally can't picture myself doing it. Like I can sit and admire art. I can admire great writing, but I very rarely want to step into the ring. It's the same as like watching the Knicks play, right? Like cool. It's cool to watch them in the playoffs, but like I'm not dunking on Cat ever. Like I wouldn't be foolish enough to get on the floor, right? But with that said, obviously something bit you and you're like, I want to be able to tell a story. What gave you the confidence to go for that in that way?
Well, I am approaching 40, and there have just been so many times in my life where I have halfway started something or I've halfway done something, and I'm essentially at the midpoint of my life. And I mean, if I've got another 40 good years, like that's awesome. But realistically, that's about all the time I have left. And so I look back, not to say that my life hasn't had purpose, because it has. I've got a wonderful wife, 2 beautiful kids. Like, I've got a job that I love. Like it hasn't all been for nothing. But I look back at my life and I just saw there were so many things that I started and just never finished. And so, to be fair, I did try to start writing like a, epic fantasy novel and things like that. But in order to do those, they've got to be at the least, 200-300 pages. And so I just kind of, life gets in the way, and I started and stopped and started and stopped, and so this I could take kind of like a bite-sized chunk, and I wrote the script, and I was like, wow, I did it, and this, what we're eventually publishing is definitely not the first version. It's like the 10th or 15th. I've lost count. But when I wrote that first script, I was like, oh my gosh, like I finished something. Um, and that to me was a bigger deal than anything at the time. And that was something that I talked to my wife about, because, reaching out to Chris, like I didn't know what his response would be. I didn't really know where this was going to go, if it was going to go anywhere. And so she just was like, hey, if we go through this, and thankfully this didn't happen, because again, the Kickstarter funded in less than 5 hours. We are
Yeah.
currently at 180% funded, so we're doing great. And we still have 10 days left, so pledge if you can. But I say all that. I had the conversation with my wife, and she was like, I'm encouraging you. I'm on your side, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here. What if this doesn't go anywhere? And I really had to ask myself that question and go, oh my gosh, like, what if this doesn't go anywhere? And I had to come to a place where I talked to myself, and I said, if I can just hold something in my hands that I have finished and I have created, and go, look, I did this, that would be enough for me. And again, thankfully, that's not where we're at. People seem to be interested, and that's great.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully we can keep doing this as long as we can. But that was the question that I had to, as a creative, ask myself and answer. And I think that is something that we as creatives have to ask ourselves. Are we doing this for accolades? Are we doing this for monetization? Are we doing this for others? Or if I only did this for me, and I'm the only one that ended up with it or seeing it or experiencing it, is that enough? And in that moment, for me, it was like, yeah, that was enough. So yeah, I already kind of forgot the question, but
Oh no, you're good.
Anyway,
You had had a desire to bring a story to life, and somehow you stumbled on comics, and it's like, okay, wait, this is a way that I can make this huge, audacious goal. I can make it digestible and to start to knock it out, right? Like,
yes.
Now, of course, with epic fantasy, right? Like the epic kind of just means long to the layman, right? And you're
Right.
talking about like kind of collecting these epic tomes and all the layers and layers of world building that it can take to create these worlds. And then, you kind of juxtapose that with comics where it's like 22, maybe 32 pages max per issue. How do you go about sort of condensing the world down? Or was it a thing where it felt like, okay, it can be a smaller world and that's easier?
So I think, especially with this first story arc, it's definitely a zoomed in version of the overall world and the story. But I think it's going to be really fun, because while we are telling the main character Murk's story, we're going to see him, and most of the first story arc takes place in one particular city, in the kingdom, and so we're going to see a lot of other characters and people groups and things moving in and out of frame, so to speak. And so almost by what's the word I'm looking for? We're going to kind of get like a side view of all of these different cultures and experiences and people groups and things like that. And I think as we are able to do more of these, bite-sized story arcs, the world itself is going to expand. Now, one of the things we were planning on doing as well, and I don't want to give too much away, but there are plans to kind of include more side stories and more pieces of lore through the Kickstarter that we're doing, through other crowdfunding endeavors that we do. So as long as we raise enough money, everybody will get kind of a bigger peek into this overall world, which is something I'm really excited about. And it's going to make its way in one way or another. But the quicker we raise more money, the quicker we'll be able to get those sneak peeks of lore into the story.
Nice. So Monstrel is billed as the saga of an orc turned bard. I think this is a perfect time to kind of pause and just talk about what this story is about. Can you give us kind of a top level view of what we're looking at?
Yeah, definitely. So the story is all about, like I said, the main character named Murk, Murk, and he is born into an orc tribe where they are just all about raiding and going out and fighting, and war is their craft. It's their whole way of life. And so he has a father who is very much like hardcore, leaning into that aspect. And he and his father kind of butt heads a little bit because he is just kind of like, well, Dad, I'm not really sure if I want to do this. And his dad's like, do what? Abandon your family legacy and, turn your back on your entire tribe and, the soul of your people. And he just like lays it on thick. And Murk's like, no, I guess I do want all those things. And so they are training for their first raid. And towards the end of the first issue, they go on their first raid. And the village that they go to raid, or the town they go to raid, he comes in contact with the minstrel or the bard at the local tavern. Chaos ensues, and they end up being kind of a mentor-apprentice type of relationship, and you can see the story move through that. And so, again, it's a story of belonging. It's a story of finding your purpose, finding your passion, and eventually finding your people. And you'll see once everybody gets a chance to read through the end of the issue, you'll see the people that Murk is going to eventually meet and form hopefully lasting, found family bonds with.
Nice. So I'm going to ask something that potentially could spoil something. So tread lightly, right? But
yes,
one of the themes that you opened up, we were talking about this earlier, was just kind of like that aspect of going out into something new, right? Like, and there's a period where it's like you kind of have to unlearn everything that you've learned, right? And then you kind of have to reconstruct the world around you with this new information. And a part of that reconstruction can be like, okay, here are all the things that I learned, that I grew up with or grew up in, that were good. And then here's some of that stuff that I should have left behind. And so I won't ask like what those things were for Murk, because I'm sure that's coming up later in the story, perhaps in issues we haven't even seen yet. But I'm curious about a time in your life where you had to kind of go back and look at your life through a critical lens and then say, okay, this wasn't as bad as maybe I thought, or this wasn't as good as maybe I thought.
So for me, for Murk, I'll just go ahead and tell you, all the fighting that he learns and the weapon craft and all that kind of stuff does come in handy because he does go out into the wider world and people are trying to hurt him. And so he can't just kind of find his way out of the situation with a magical song, although, that kind of does end up having something to do with it, but that gets into spoilers. So we'll leave it there. But for me, it was, I'll be honest, it was all my way through school where I got to the end of elementary school, and I moved from North Carolina to Georgia, like right in the middle of third grade. And so I was dropped into a new situation, brand new group of people, and I had the opportunity to kind of rediscover myself, reinvent myself, even at 9 years old. And so by the time I had like 2 or I guess 3 years of elementary school, and then all of a sudden middle school started, which is a lot. And so, but again, you had 3 years to kind of find your way again, and reinvent yourself again. And by the time you figure out, your place in middle school, boom, all of a sudden high school hits and you're at the bottom of the food chain, so to speak. You're a little freshman again. and you have 4 more years to kind of again find yourself, and potentially reinvent yourself. And so for me, it was, I guess, realizing that in each new iteration of my education, of my schooling, and even into college too, I didn't have to reinvent myself every time. There were aspects of myself and my personality and things that I really liked. And so I at first, and I feel like everybody, and maybe not everybody, but a lot of people go through this, they spend so much time trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to say to make this person laugh? Or what do I need to do to make this person like me and want to hang out with me? And what do I need to be in this situation in order for people to be around me and things like that? And the older I got, the more I realized I was like, half the stuff that I'm doing doesn't make me happy. And it's not true to who I am. And I think that was the biggest shift, was realizing I could leave those parts of me behind that weren't really who I was, and embrace the parts of me that were really who I was. And the crazy thing was, when I did that, I attracted more of the people that liked me for me. Um, and so I'm hoping that through this story, we can kind of tell a similar tale of, Murk has all these things that are a part of him. He can't get rid of them because they're just part of who he is growing up. Um, but he's realizing he can leave some of those things behind and lean into the things that he really enjoys doing and really loves. And he's going to find people that appreciate the truest parts of him. And again, I can't speak for everybody, but especially middle school, that's a tough time. And so, yeah, I think for me, that was kind of my transformative mindset, was realizing, like, I don't have to be 100 different things to 100 different people. I can be me, and the people that love me for me will be there for me.
Nice. And Chris, at the risk of derailing this entire episode, I'm gonna pose the same question to you, and then I'm gonna answer it as well.
Cool.
Sweet. Okay. I was trying to, while I was actively listening, Ryan, I was also trying to think of mine just in case this happened. But you know, the thing that I've always noticed about myself is that I don't worry about almost anything, and that drives my wife nuts. She worries enough for the both of us. She tells me when I should be worried, but otherwise, I'm very much the like, why are you worrying? What's wrong? It's fine. It'll be fine. Just it'll be fine. So that's always been my mentality. I don't know why that is, but I mean, I've had a lot of. It's funny because I kind of mention a lot that I have nothing to complain about. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason for me to complain. And then if someone really asks me a prodding question, I go, well, my dad left when I was young. I had a lot of family problems. Like, I could definitely list some complaints. It's just I don't have to own them as complaints. So that's always just kind of been my mentality, which is like the things that happened to me in the past, things that maybe I weren't as bad as I thought they were, or maybe I was too worried about them, and then it turned out to be for the best. Honestly, I almost always side on that edge. So like I really can't point to much of anything specifically, just because I'm very broad in my like retrospection. But like even with my dad leaving, like that very easily, honestly, all it did was show me what not to do and how to be a good dad. So like it was just something that is very difficult. It obviously put a lot of pressure on our family, and I know it kind of messed me up a little bit a long time ago, but even right now, or even back then, I did have the mentality of, God's got a plan for everything. I don't know why I'm worrying about anything. This will all work out. That's all. This will all work out will be on my tombstone. So that's just how I've always been. So no, I don't really have that per se. I definitely probably like kind of associate a little bit with, not associate, whatever the term is, but I I'm in the similar boat as you, Ryan, where when I was in middle school and high school and stuff like that, where I really just had to kind of not care what people thought. I never chased, what the kids call today clout. Clout wasn't a thing back then, by the way, guys. It was just popular or not popular. And so, just didn't really care. But that's kind of led me to this point of just everything's fine.
Yeah.
It's such a
Nice.
dumb answer, but that's how I've always viewed things.
Nah, listen, man, that's a biblical position to take, right? Like whatever state I find myself, I've learned to be content, right?
Yeah,
Like I can do all things through Christ. Like that's not like just
I am content.
words of empowerment. That's a verse, a passage about contentment. I can be
Yeah.
in a lowly state or in an elevated state because Christ is the one that strengthens me to
Exactly.
do so, right? Now that we're done preaching, or maybe not, right? Because mine,
Hey, I'm
it's
here
your
for
turn.
it, man.
guys,
Let's do a little more Jesus. I'm here for it.
that works for me. But speaking of the sort of deconstruct, reconstruct for me came in my pivot to like comics media. Prior to this, I was very deep in like passionate about the music industry. I was a rapper, music producer turned artist manager, marketing consultant. Like that was the track I was on. And when I got married, that just kind of paused everything in life. All right, you slow down. My wife had a child already, so it made me a dad instantly at 23. And so there's just like you go through that point where you're kind of reevaluating everything. And it took me a few years, but I guess maybe 5 years in, it's like, okay, this whole music thing is really not compatible with the life that I'm trying to live, right? Like I don't want to be on tour with anybody. I also don't want to be promoting music that's like crazy ungodly. So that means I'm playing for an audience of like 100 people, and I
Right.
gotta take this artist into like these 50, 100 cap venues, and so that means I'm out. I'd be the type to be in the 15 passenger van going to a million small clubs for like a month at a time, and it's like
Right.
I don't want that life. But the crisis was like, well, if this isn't me, then who am I? Because since I was 12, 13, like I've been kind of pushing toward this one goal. And it just happened that I kind of found comics just before the pandemic and just really dove in. And I started the YouTube channel really just to kind of, motivate myself to stay in front of the camera because I didn't feel like talking about music stuff at the moment. But what I learned just through building what is now this platform is that the stuff that I loved wasn't necessarily just musical. I just really enjoy creativity. I love talking process. I like talking about what inspires people, and I like seeing what they make, often given some of the same stimuli, right? Like you might like or a genre that I don't like, but a lot of times what's under your story is like, I went through this hurt, I went through this trauma, or I met this person and it was like inspiring to me. And it was like that piece of it is what connects all of us. And I just like seeing that connection. And I don't know that I would have known that about myself had I continued down the path that I was on. So, but it's really fun to like sort of look back at your life and say, I thought I was secure in this thing, but really I wasn't. And it turns out there was something underneath it all along.
Right. Yeah, I was probably similar with Ryan in that I didn't want to derail like you said or kind of take over anything. But Ryan, when you said earlier the whole I'm getting close to 40, I'm getting, rapidly closer to 40. I had the same exact like to a T kind of mental, not breakdown, but it felt like a breakdown at first where I'm just like, okay, I'm halfway done.
Something
If
broke.
I'm lucky, yeah, if I'm lucky, I'm halfway done. What have I done? And I'm in a similar boat of like I have two great kids. I love my wife. I have a fantastic marriage. So like all of that is honestly, it's like a mirror at this point. It's very similar to Ryan's story. And I had done a ton of stuff previously, similar to you, BJ, where it was like I was pursuing a lot of really interesting things, but I wasn't able to really capitalize or finish any of them. Like it just wasn't something that was going anywhere, nor some of them were even something I knew I should have been interested in. You know, I was like, okay, this probably isn't for me. Um, and then I eventually found comics, and I've had this conversation with my wife many times. Like, honestly, I just feel like it's something I'm finally good at. Like, I really enjoy it, and I also feel good at it. Like, when it comes to owning a production studio, like owning Bentbox Comics, I feel good at it. Making comics, I feel good at it. And that's not saying I'm perfect, but it just means that I feel like I finally go, okay, this is what I should be doing, and which is a fantastic feeling. And I do think a lot of it, like you mentioned, a lot of it's wrapped up in just the art of creation. There's something of which harkens back to our last conversation with Alex. There's just something about every previous thing I tried to do had some form of creative outlet to it. It was just basically finding the right one.
Yeah. I once heard it said that like creativity is when we're like closest to like what it feels like to be God, right?
Yep.
Not like in any sort of blasphemous way, like we're trying to run the world or anything, but like God, said, let there be light. There was light and it was good. Like he saw it and said that it was good. And it's like, there's something about an idea being in your head. Sometimes you speak the goal out loud, sometimes you don't, but it's like you put in the work, you see the result of that work, and it's like, huh. And I'm starting to see that principle in all kinds of places. Like we bought a house a couple of years,
Right.
a little bit less than 2 years ago, and I am now taking over all of the lawn care duties so that I'm not paying someone to cut the grass, right? So throwing down fertilizer and like all sorts of little things, and it's like you spend all this time working in the yard, and it feels so dumb. And then 2 weeks later, you look at it, and it's like, huh, that looks good. Like that's nice. I did that, So it's
exactly.
really fun. So yeah, listen, we put the preaching in the middle of the episode this time. So now that we've gotten through it, I'm curious as to, you talked about how this may be the 15th iteration of this story. How far along were you when you decided to bring it to Chris? And then how has it evolved since Chris got involved?
So this was, gosh, almost 3 years ago now, I think. I finally had the, however many iterations of the script it was, and I paid, I think it was like $150 to a webtoon artist to work up the first 5 pages, and with those 5 pages and my script, I basically pitched it online to anyone and everyone. I'm talking about from Image, like all the way down to these indie publishers, anybody that had a website. I just threw my story at them. And for about 6 months, maybe a little bit more, it was just about every week I was like scouring the internet trying to find people that I could pitch this story to. And all of them were basically like, hey, if you don't hear back, that's our answer. And wouldn't you know it, I didn't hear back from any of them. And so about 2 years go by, and this would have been, I guess, about June of last year. I put it on the shelf. I was like, you know what, maybe this isn't going to be a thing that's ever going to happen. And I moved on. And again, in my mind, it was like, hey, this is going to be another thing that I started, that I almost finished and just didn't finish. And like Chris said earlier, I was watching a video of Nick's, and he mentioned Bentbox, and I don't know what it was, but just something told me like, hey, you haven't pitched this thing in 2 years, and the art was gathering dust on the shelf, so to speak. And I don't know, I just figured, hey, I'll give it another shot. And I think, if Chris had not been gracious enough to give me the time, and again, I was just kind of looking for at least feedback. But if he had not kind of pursued a working relationship with me, I think I might have taken that and maybe reached out to a couple other people through social media, TikTok or whatever it was, and tried that pitching method because I had just basically sent things off into the void of the web of the internet on these websites and never heard anything back. But here was a method where I could have an almost real time conversation with somebody else. And so I think I might have pursued that, but I don't know. If I was being honest, I don't know how much longer I would have done it if I hadn't heard back from somebody. Um, but yeah, I think it's just, and we've talked about the whole creative aspect of who we are, but I think it's just part of who I am. I think that if this story hadn't gone anywhere, I would have still been outlining ideas. I still would have been writing scripts for things. And Chris can tell you, I've already, we've gotten the first issue of Monstrel, almost in the books, and I'm already like, "Hey, Chris, I have this other idea." And he's like, "Okay, hold on, let's finish this first story first, and then we'll get to the other thing." So, I think it's just, like I said, it's just a part of who we are is just to continue creating, and I think that what's the expression? You throw enough at the wall, something's going to stick eventually. So yeah, I think if this hadn't worked out, something would have eventually. I'm just glad this did.
Nice. Now, Chris, we talk about like sort of your eye for talent and things, right? But I'm curious because it sounds like what you received was a very raw version of what I'm looking at now, right? 5 pages from a webtoon artist and then a pitch or outline. What was it about that initial document that you were like, hold on, this is special, let's develop it?
So you are correct. It was a little rough, but I mean that's something that and I've tried to be very honest with people because if people are asking for feedback, especially like if I'm asking for feedback, I don't want it to be all rainbows and butterflies. I need something that's like, I've had some people give me feedback where I was like, I just disagree with what you're saying, which is fine because that's also a thing. But then I've had other people where they've given me like instructive feedback and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I do need to change that. Or that's not really as good as it could be. So I try my best to be honest with people and I read through his stuff and I did like it. I liked the premise. I'm a sucker for a good like name, like a single name title. I'm a sucker for it. If it's succinct and captures basically the story. So when he said monster, I'm like, I'm already in because I already understand what that means. It's a cool title. It's quippy enough to have people remember it. I was like, I'm already excited just because of the title. And it's funny, Ryan had a couple of moments where he goes, I'm thinking about changing the title, and I was like, don't you dare do that. I'm like,
That's the one thing. Don't change it.
it's the only thing I like. No, so like we've almost changed the title a couple of times, which is pretty funny. But yeah, like the art was webtoony, which we all, take that as good or bad. But I will say my initial reaction was not fantastic, but it was definitely like, okay, you have the bones are so good. The bones of this are great. The first, yeah, he gave me the full script, and to be fair, the only thing quote unquote rough about it was the art. The art just wasn't really, high tier quality, especially based on like the Bent Box library. If you go check it out, everything's very top tier as best as we can. So other than that, I think that was really the only thing we needed to quote unquote workshop. Everything else, like the script, is basically just what's on the page right now. The script was great. The world building that I was seeing within like the arc breakdowns, because like I said, he gave me a bunch of arc breakdowns between like issues 1 through 4, 5 through 8, like all these things. I was like, okay, there's a lot of planning that has gone into this already, a lot of thought. I can see investment. So it's not just some dude with some idea saying, hey, he wants to make a comic. It's like, okay, this guy's built a world and it's a cool world. And I think it has, potential. So from there, it really was just, and we had, it wasn't a hard conversation per se, but it was just a very blunt conversation where I was like, hey, I like what you got. We need to upgrade the art. That's literally it, which I think is that's not a bad thing because it could have been, hey, your script isn't very good or this isn't very good, and then that needs changed. But with it just being the art, that's very doable. I have a plethora of artists that I work with and a ton that I really enjoy working with. So we were able to find Scott, try and shout him out as best as we can through every interview because he's fantastic.
Oh,
Scott,
so good.
yeah, he killed the project. He was honestly my number one pick when I said, "Hey, I'll find us an artist. If you're willing to trust me, let me find an artist that would fit this vibe." And we did. We found Scott. Fantastic. He has only been a net benefit to the whole series. So once we saw, like, I want to say Murk's, concept art.
Concept art. Yeah.
Yeah. Once we saw Murk's concept art, I was like, okay, we're good.
Yep.
Don't have to worry about anything.
Yep.
Let's just make the book now. And that's quite literally all it was. From that point on, it was just page after page after page of just great art. Everything flows well. So not we, I mean, it was Ryan and Scott eventually made this amazing book. So I'm more than happy that it's under Bent Box. Trust me.
Nice. Now, I should pause here. So I wanted to pause just so that I could show you guys what this art looks like. And unfortunately, I had to lose Chris's video stream in order to do that, but it's okay.
I'm still here. I'm watching.
Right. And they can hear you too. So what we've got, this is the cover. And now, is this cover by Scott as well?
It is, yes. And that's something that, Chris has spoken to before, and I agree 100%. Like, Scott's art is just so perfect and so dynamic and just fits the vibe of the book so well that we really wanted him to do the main cover just so that it still fit with the art inside the book. And you can see here, I mean, just several characters kind of in a, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a montage because that's like a movie thing, but just all together. Collage. That's it. Thank you. But they're all together on the screen. You can see Murk there in the middle. And it's just funny. When we asked Scott to do a cover, he was like, well, Ryan, what are you thinking? Like, what's the cover that you want to make? And so I pitched him an idea, and bless him, he was like, that sounds really good, but I'm kind of having trouble kind of figuring out what you want exactly. Could you sketch it for me so I can see a visual? And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I can attempt that, and I did, and I sent it to him, and he came back and he was like, okay, listen, this was a really great try, but I've got an idea. Let me get back to you. And then he comes up with this, and I'm like, okay, yep, that was better than my terrible sketch. But again, like, as the writer, I'm writing these panels, I'm writing these scenes, and I attempted to sketch my idea of a cover, and Scott, being the visual artist that he is, he comes back and he's like, hey, here's what I've got. And I'm like, that is literally a million times better than anything I could have come up with. And yeah, as soon as he sent us the rough sketch, I was like, this looks amazing. And then he did, the cleaner version. We added color, and I'm like, yep, I want a million of these to cover an entire wall of my house with. Like this, it's epic in every sense of the word.
It's beautiful. It certainly would look great as like an 11 by 17 on the wall. You gotta get one printed and framed. For those who are just listening to the audio, right? I'll do my terrible art description. I always try. All right. So this cover, I mean, it features Murk and all of our sort of side characters, each in their own sort of heroic, or maybe not necessarily heroic, but like a character driven pose. Think like all those classic Drew Struzan movie posters, like the Indiana Jones or Star Wars, like all those classic sort of collage posters where you just see the hero in the middle and all these other people just kind of, some are side profiles, some are medium shots. And it's like, but when you're looking at it, it's just like, okay, what is this world and how do I become part of it? And that's what this cover makes me feel like. I love it.
I love that. That's a great description.
Oh, no problem. So as much as I love the cover, that's not what sold me on the book. What sold me on this book is the title page, where you see Murk and he's got his weapon of choice, which is like a guitar and an axe. Like it is like Thor's Stormbreaker, but like made with the guitar. It's amazing.
Yes, yes, and that was something that we actually, again, I had this idea of like, hey, he needs a weapon, but he also wants to play music. So what's some way we can design a little bit of both? And again, we reached out to Scott and we were like, hey, I've got this idea for a musical instrument that's also an axe. What can you do with that? And he was like, give me a minute. And Chris, I can't even remember how long it took him. I want to say it was only a couple of hours, maybe.
Yeah.
But he came back with a whole concept art, like full spread of like 7 different versions of this musical weapon. And I was like, I love all of them. I don't know how to choose one. But ultimately, this is the one that we ended up going with, and it will evolve over time. Another spoiler alert: there's a specific thing that's going to happen. It's gonna change a little bit, but yeah, I love this original picture, and we toyed with this possibly being a cover, or using it in a different way, but yeah, I just think you're going to open the book and that's going to smack you right in the face, and I'm just really excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely smacked me in the face. And not lost on me that slang for a guitar is an axe, right? Like that's
Yes.
crazy. So without giving people time to just read all this, although to be fair, what I'm showing you right now, you can actually read this preview on globalcomics.com if you just want to check out the story before you decide whether or not you want to back this campaign. But basically, we are getting this. Wait, is this the same? This is not the same as the preview. All right, I don't know. I feel like I just read something different than what I'm showing you right now. So I'm just going to stay right here in case I'm not tripping.
It looks correct.
It's correct? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I was just making sure that I'm not spoiling the whole book.
To be fair, you have in the promo folder we sent you, you have the full book. So
Right.
as long as you don't start flipping through that real quick.
All right. I thought I was
fine.
okay. Yeah. That's what I thought happened. I'm looking at the whole book right now. And I'm like, wait, I was looking at the Global Comics preview. I can't tell if it's a 1-for-1 matchup, but all I really wanted to show you guys was that this art is phenomenal. I think we've accomplished that, and I'm going to go back to a different view before I spoil everything completely.
Good call.
So, but what's fun about it is I think the hardest thing for me when it comes to fantasy, sci-fi, and so on is the world building. It's like, you got to drop me in this world. You have to explain every little detail to me. And, I don't know if it's ADHD. I don't know if I just have like a terrible attention span because I live on the internet for, all of my life. But at a point, it loses me. What I think comics have a unique advantage, though, in that they can show and tell very quickly. And so instead of it being, he walked through the scorched earth, through the wheat fields, and it's like earth, wheat fields, and here's our friend, right? Like, and it works out if you, I guess, are a good enough writer, a snappy enough writer. It can still be entertaining and immersive, and you don't feel like you're cheating either part of the experience. And that's what I get through this preview. So really great job, guys.
Thank you.
No problem at all. So all that said, I think all that's left to really talk about as we wrap is the campaign and some of these rewards. First, I want to ask you, though, how did it feel to fund this whole project in 5 hours?
It was crazy. Like, I remember, and Chris, kudos to you, because it's just, again, it's something that I've tried to work on, but I've always second guessed myself. And, and he said himself, like, he doesn't really ever worry about anything. So I'm over here like, oh gosh, like, should we do this? Should we do that? Like, am I doing enough? Like, am I singing it? And he's like, Ryan, I'm just gonna hit the button to start it, and it'll be fine. Like, and that's and so I'm like, I woke up like the morning of, because we decided we were gonna do it about like 11 o'clock that day, and so I'm like waking up and I'm like going to work, and I'm like watching the clock, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna hit the button at 11, and really like nothing changed for me. Like I was doing my job, and then 11 o'clock hit, and I was still doing my job, and I'm just like, okay.
Yep.
And we were messaging back and forth, and he kept saying like, hey, refresh the Kickstarter, hey, we'd leave it alone for a while, hey, refresh. And so throughout the day, I was checking updates, and I mean, it was surreal. Like it was one of those moments where one of my coworkers, who ended up pledging and supporting, thank you, but she was like, hey, have you checked it in a little while? And I was like, no. And then Chris messaged me too. He's like, hey, refresh it one more time. And I did. And we were at, I think, like 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
And so we had passed our goal by just a little bit. But it was a very gratifying moment just to see, in real time, like I've said before, so many things I've started and never finished. And here we have literal monetary proof that what I started is going to be finished. And so I remember just taking a moment and just like letting that sink in. And it was just, I mean, it was the best feeling. It was knowing that I've been with this story for several years now, and I believe in the story because I'm the one that made it. But it was very affirming for me to look at the literal numbers and go, wow, other people believe in the story too. And I think that was something that, from our first interaction between me and Chris, like he saw it and immediately was like, I believe in this story. I believe in where the story could go. And that's been such a huge encouragement to me in and of itself. But to see the actual numbers and go, wow, other people want to hear more of this story was just huge for me.
Nice. Nah, it's I love a good success story, first of all, right? Like to sort of, cast net on the other side and come up with a bunch of fish is amazing and is never going to feel any less miraculous, right? So I'm sure as, you get more campaigns under your belt, I hope you keep that feeling, right? But speaking of campaigns, I want to talk a little bit for you guys about what you can get in this campaign. So of course you can get the first issue of Monstral, which, funny enough, until Chris called out that he knew what the name meant, I was like, oh snap, wait, it is a play. Monster, minstrel. This is amazing. But but you get the first issue of Monstral, and you can get it digitally. You can get the digital PDF, the deluxe PDF that'll give you like some extras in the back, which, by the way, is amazing that you can do that. Like, obviously, you have to create both files either way, but of course that's just cool that we can add that variance in products. I'm a marketing nerd, so there's me. But of course, you can get there's 3 covers. So the cover A is going to be $10, or you can get one of the variant covers for $15. Alex Ortiz does an amazing cover, and then there's also a cover C by Rico Thompson. And all of those, any physical book that you buy comes with that deluxe PDF. You can purchase every book for just $40, or you can get basically every add-on, so that's sticker sheets, some posters, and everything for $300. We were talking about how good this cover would look as an 11 by 17, and here we are. You can get an 11 by 17 poster pack for all 3 covers. Or is it that, you get all 3 for $15, which is an amazing price for 11 by 17 posters, 3 of them. So, yeah, man.
Yep. The other good thing about that tier, if you don't mind, that's the Bardic Inspiration tier. That's our big boy tier. That one, the reason why it's $300 is because you could be drawn into the comic. So we wanted to offer that as an option because we love Scott's art so much, and honestly, because there's a scene that would be perfect for anyone's face. There's a tavern scene where there's a bunch of, for lack of a better term, NPCs, and I'm like, okay, this would be a perfect spot for you, for anyone. You could be killed by an orc. You could be, you could be singing a song with the minstrel on stage. So I figured it would be a cool tier. I know people do like it. We already have one taker already. So it's a limit or a max of 4. So there's only 3 left. If you want to be ever enshrined in the first issue of Monstral, make sure you jump on that because, yeah, only a couple days left.
Absolutely.
That actually sounds like a cool tier. Like if I were to take you up on that, how do we deal with the licensing, right? Like I have to have my Mets hat on. Like, does that fit in this world?
You know what? I would 100% find a way to make a Met hat, like a lore accurate Met hat.
Yeah, fantasy version for sure.
I guarantee we could figure it out and have it be very funny.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Yeah, we could. Let's see. I'm already trying to think what kind of fantasy sports league we can
exactly
introduce to the story and just have a whole. Hey, you're the marketing guy. We can. We'll open up a whole line of baseball caps or trucker hats or whatever with all the fantasy symbols on. Man, okay.
The funny
now
thing
my mind's going.
Yeah, you could make a joke about being drawn in the comic with a Mets hat, and now we turn it into there's a sports league in the world. These are the players. Like it could grow that fast just because of a Mets hat. So hey,
that's amazing.
Might be worth it.
Right, amazing world building. One thing I always love about your campaigns is the graphic for the stretch goal. So we're filling in the colors for this axe.
Yes,
now,
sir.
The one stretch goal that I'm actually looking forward to is the Lore and Legends stretch goal for $2,500. If we reach that in the campaign, which by the time you guys see this, we got like 3 days left to hit it. So hopefully we already have. But in case we haven't, we get an extended print, including concept art and early notes. That's my favorite part of most comics, right? Is all the back matter, whether it's the letters pages or if you get those, usually you have to wait and get the hardcover, right? DC will put out the absolute edition or whatever. And in the back, it's like, oh, here were some early designs. Here's what it could have looked like. But now it looks better, right? Like that type of stuff is gold to me. And so to be able to get that in the back of the first issue would be amazing. So we got to back this campaign to get it over that goal.
Absolutely, and I will say we've joked about this, and I'm really worried it's not a joke anymore. We've talked about including my terrible sketch of my first cover idea in that concept art. So you can, if enough people back in, we raise enough money, we can see some really cool artwork from Scott and at least one terrible piece of art from me.
Nice.
Yep.
That's fun. That's fun. So at the time of recording, we've hit the first stretch goal. So we get the thicker, high quality paper with the matte cover finish, which is nice. And at 75 backers, we will get a back page that lists every backer and at what tier you backed at. So if you were cheap and just got the digital, it'll say that and shame you. So you should upgrade your pledge real quick. Just that's a pro tip from me.
Yeah.
But honestly, man, this campaign looks amazing. I'm so excited that it successfully funded and in such great fashion for you guys, just kind of to reward you for taking that step. So hopefully, prayerfully, this goes beyond your wildest expectations and dreams. And, where we get to look back on this from the future like, man, we really knocked it out of the park. And how are we going to top this for issue 2? That's the problems I would like to have.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely a good problem to have.
For sure. Well, guys, I'm going to leave the link to this campaign down in the description of this video and in the show notes for all you audio heads. If you want to follow Bent Box Comics, you should follow Bent Box Comics on Instagram. They're on Twitter. They're everywhere out here. Yeah. Ryan, if they want to follow you, where can they find you?
They can find me on TikTok. My username is Ryan_reads_88. And that's where I do all my book reviews, my new comic book day hauls, and where I post all about the campaign that we're currently in the middle of. So
Nice. Man, I feel like I'm way too old for TikTok, but if you're making it work, maybe I should. Maybe I should try it.
Little by little. The older I get, the more I'm just like, I just want to jump off of it and just hope I can still make the book and just do okay. But it's a necessary evil, I think, at this point. So we'll see how it goes.
True. Well, look, guys, follow all the links in the description down below. I will leave them there for you. Huge thank you to you, Ryan. Congratulations to you, and to you, Chris, as well. Thanks for always coming back. Always enjoy having you. These are great conversations that we have. This one was great, no different. And I will see all of you watching in another video very soon. Until then, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.